something like this. That means that's a threat.
Israel is a client country that we sponsor, and should actually be responsible and held accountable for what they do.
The Holocaust. But, the reality of the situation, if we look at
you are already telling people you need to be loyal to Israel.
Bassem Youssef just humiliated Lex Fridman for lying about Palestine, telling him to stop hiding behind fake neutrality and use his brain instead. Lex pushed his safe both sides framing, but Bassem ripped it apart with raw truth. Gaza blockaded, kids in prisons, and babies buried under rubble. The illusion shattered instantly.
You see, this is how easy for them to get rid of. The two sides are not equal. They're not equal in power, they're not equal in influence, and they're not equal in international support.
Bassem Youssef didn't just debate Lex Fridman. He annihilated him, tearing apart the fake neutrality that dares to equate the occupier with the occupied. He dragged the conversation out of Lex's safe, abstract bubble and slammed it into raw reality. Prisons full of children, Gaza starved and bombed, 13,000 babies buried under rubble. Every polite mask, every philosophical dodge, every both sides cliche was ripped to pieces until Lex was cornered, exposed, and speechless. This wasn't a podcast. It was a public execution of lies, leaving nothing standing but the brutal, undeniable truth.
And to which degree does Hamas represent the Palestinian people?
Does. None of these represent it, but who have the power in order to make the decisions? It really comes down to that.
Bassem Youssef tears into the rotten politics behind the conflict, torching Israeli hardliners, U.S. money fueling the occupation, and the lies dressed up as victimhood. He exposes how media spin and fear-mongering stoke Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, keeping the world blind to the real suffering. Biden's claim that Jewish safety depends on Israel? Bassem rips it apart as reckless and dangerous. This isn't discussion, it's a ruthless reality check that leaves no excuse standing.
What should Hamas do?
And the role of the Israeli people is to vote out this right-wing government and elect a more moderate leader so that there's a chance at peace with two moderate leaders.
Lex begins with his go-to angle. Both sides are extreme. Netanyahu on one end, Hamas on the other. His claim? Peace is possible if moderates replace the extremists. On paper, it sounds balanced, intellectual, even reasonable. But Bassem Youssef isn't buying it, and he wastes no time dismantling it.
1.7 million people of the people in Gaza don't belong in Gaza. They were pushed from other places.
Bassem calls it what it is, a fake symmetry. Gaza isn't Israel's equal. Gaza is occupied, blockaded, starved, bombed. Israel, meanwhile, is armed and funded by the world's most powerful military. There's no balance here, only an occupier and the occupied. The audience feels the shift immediately. Lex's calm intellectual framing starts to crack as Bassem tears away the illusion of neutrality.
To which degree does Netanyahu represent the Israeli people? Is a real question.
To which point does Trump or Biden represent the American people?
Lex pivots again, retreating into abstraction. To what extent do leaders represent their people? He asks, as though this is a philosophy seminar. But Bassem doesn't indulge the thought experiment. He brings it back to reality. Representation means nothing when a population lives under military control. Palestinians don't choose their fate at the ballot box. Their lives are dictated by checkpoints, blockades, and an occupying power that controls every inch of their sky and land.
So starvation is a thing we don't often think of it as murder.
That's when Lex's intellectual mask begins to slip. What he calls neutrality, Bassem exposes as moral theater. Lex isn't steering the conversation anymore. He's scrambling. Each question he floats gets torn down and dragged back to the raw facts of occupation. Lex tries one more familiar move. If Hamas were gone and Israelis voted in moderates, peace would come. It's the story repeated in headlines. the belief that good leaders can erase systemic injustice.
And Ariel Sharon kind of like came up with this amazing policy of like breaking people's kids' bones in the Intifada. So Baraki was also like, I mean,
But Bassem shreds the fantasy. He points to history. Ariel Sharon, remembered by some as a pragmatist, ordered Palestinian children's bones to be broken during the Intifada. Israeli governments across the spectrum enforced the blockade of Gaza, demolished homes, and entrenched military rule. What moderates is Lex talking about?
February 11th, Mohammed Khattur, U.S. citizens killed while being in a parked car. And Mu'adh Shams, February 9th.
And then Bassem widens the frame. Hamas, he argues, didn't appear from thin air. It's the child of oppression, just as the ANC rose under apartheid or the French resistance fought Nazi occupation. You don't have to endorse Hamas to understand why it exists. Oppression creates resistance, and ignoring that fact is blindness. Lex's neat theory collapses.
If you're talking about people who are kidnapped, Israel kidnaps people every single day.
The idea that one election could undo decades of colonization, displacement, and military dominance looks absurd. Then comes the chilling moment. Lex invokes Hamas's October 7th attack as though it is the defining example of hostage-taking. But Bassem doesn't flinch. He flips the frame instantly. Israel kidnaps Palestinians every day. Thousands sit in prison, many of them children. Some are in solitary confinement, recognized internationally as torture. These aren't rumors. They're documented facts from human rights organizations.
You have been put between you and those people that you have treated them this way. When this is a breach and you come face to face, you will come face to face with what you have created.
And Bassem reminds Lex of the November prisoner swap. 400 Palestinians were released. 3/4 of them were women and children, labeled terrorists until the moment they were exchanged. Suddenly, the word hostage isn't simple anymore. Lex's categories collapse. Who are the real hostages? Those taken on October 7th, or the thousands locked up without trial for years?
You have been put between you and those people that you have treated them this way. When this is a breach and you come face to face, you will come face to face with what you have created.
When the debate reaches its peak, Bassem shifts gears. Instead of another statistic, he offers a story, one that pierces the narrative at its core. He introduces Dr. Mohammed Helmi, an Egyptian doctor living in Nazi Germany.
Then now he is surrounded by Nazi doctors. They didn't touch him because he was an Arab.
Helmi risked his life to save Jews from the Holocaust. He hid a Jewish girl, Anna, for 7 years, disguising her as his niece, teaching her Arabic, giving her a new identity. He wrapped a hijab around her head and called her Nadia, even presenting her to Nazi officials as family. And he wasn't alone. Helmi worked with other Arabs in Berlin to save hundreds of Jewish lives.
Israel was erected in 1948. And then, of course, everybody looked at Jews at the time as fifth column. And of course, the nationalistic regimes used that. And this is why what Biden said was very dangerous when he said, if there's no Israel, no Jew in the world will feel safe.
Bassem then turns his sights across the ocean onto US President Joe Biden. Biden once declared, "Without Israel, Jews cannot be safe in the world." It sounded like solidarity, a guarantee of protection. But Bassem unpacks the danger hidden in the statement.
In your country, in the United States of America, are not safe. That is wrong on 2 levels. Number one, America historically and right now is more safe to Jews in America in the world than more than anybody. They are safer than the Jews in Israel.
He points to reality. Jews in the United States are historically safer than Jews in Israel. No pogroms, no Holocaust, no wars targeting their neighborhoods. American Jewish communities have thrived for centuries. By suggesting Jewish safety depends on Israel, Biden inadvertently tells Jews in America they don't fully belong where they are. Their citizenship becomes conditional. their loyalty is questioned.
President, and you're telling that a group of people will not feel safe unless there's a different one, you are already feeding into their fifth column.
That's the irony. What Biden intended as reassurance fuels anti-Semitism. It implies Jews are foreigners in their own countries, bound to another state. Instead of protection, the words plant a target. Bassem calls it reckless, even dangerous. Lex clings to his last refuge. Ceasefire, diplomacy, moderates. The buzzwords politicians repeat year after year. But Bassem dismantles them in seconds. Arab states? They've never had the power to dictate Israel's choices. The United States bankrolls, arms, and shields Israel on the world stage. Talking about Arab intervention is a distraction.
Israel warns civilians before bombing them, and that's okay.
And worse, many governments benefit from Palestinian suffering. Corrupt regimes use it to distract from their failures. Iran exploits it to mask authoritarianism at home. Even Western powers profit by maintaining military contracts and geopolitical influence.
We need to ask, how does Israel look at the Palestinians and view the Palestinians? Because they do look at them less than human. And there is an incredible talk by Mihor Meyer. He was a Holocaust survivor. And he said, I learned in Auschwitz when I was there in the concentration camp that in order sitting next to his father, shot while he's sitting in a car next to his father by the IDF soldiers.
That's the dark truth. Palestinian suffering isn't just ignored, it's convenient. It sustains systems of power. Against that backdrop, Lex's safe vocabulary, ceasefire, diplomacy, sounds like a bad joke.
The Palestinians have been microdosing on it for a very long time. Little by little, little by little. And we would shout every time when it gets too much, and then we shut down, and then little by little. But this time it was...
And here lies the irony. The dynamic in that studio mirrors the reality of Israel and Palestine. Lex clings to illusions of balance, while Bassem brings receipts, numbers, and lived reality. Just as in the conflict itself, the power imbalance is undeniable. This wasn't a polite debate. It wasn't two equals exchanging abstract ideas. It was demolition. Lex's talking points were dismantled piece by piece until nothing remained. By the end, Lex wasn't debating. He was surviving. Every safe phrase stripped away, every illusion shattered. What remained was one man clinging to empty words, facing another who refused to let the truth be buried. And maybe that's the deeper lesson. Truth doesn't always arrive softly. It doesn't whisper. Sometimes it explodes. Sometimes it wrecks the furniture, tears through illusions, and leaves no doubt about who was right all along.